32 years later, man saw missing child report and recognized his face. His throat choked as he gazed at the familiar photograph. He realized he was 32 years younger in the picture. But when he found out he was listed in the missing children database, his confusion grew. Is that why his adoptive parents have avoided discussing his history? According to reports, the last time I saw him, his mother was said to have kidnapped him on June 21, 1977. Are his foster parents hiding something from him? He felt entitled to an answer. Stanley Peterson, an average 33-year-old man from Portsmouth, Virginia, knowing that he was adopted, his adoptive parents claimed to be transparent and honest with him from the beginning, even though they told him about the adoption. But little is said about his early years. Whenever he asks about his birth parents, they all exchange confused looks. Little did Stanley know that the truth lay deep inside, despite not knowing anything about his past. But Stanley never wanted to seem ungrateful. His adoptive parents provided him with a good life. He had no reason to complain that he had a roof over his head. And more. Stanley never looked at his adoptive parents in a negative light. However, this blind faith kept him ignorant of the truth. Yet he believes that one day he will, to uncover the secrets that have been hidden from him. Adulthood. Stanley faced many challenges during his childhood. At least that's what his adoptive parents told him. Unfortunately, he can't remember much of what happened. The secret of his childhood lingered in his memory, but he didn't pay much attention. He prefers to focus on the future because since the adoption, he's had a wonderful life. He has fond memories of his adolescence, including my first kiss when I was 16. His adoptive parents gave him his first car when he was 18. He even remembers having someone with him at the prom. He got everything he wanted, but as he got older, Stanley still felt a small emptiness in his heart. He doesn't know where he came from, not realizing that the truth would change his life forever. His adoptive parents even funded his college education. He earned a teaching degree at the age of 23, and before moving out in the local, got a job at a school. After living alone for 10 years, Stanley began to notice some inconsistencies. Where did he come from? The pressing question tormented him every day. The adoptive parents were always uncomfortable when he questioned them, so he decided to do his own research. He spent months in town. A search of orphanage records turned up nothing. It was weird, but then he got a call from an anonymous informant. He didn't know what was going to happen. His independent research did not go unnoticed because he looked into several orphanages and checked their records. One night he got an anonymous phone call. They didn't say much. They just told him to visit some website if he wants to know more about his past. They assured him that the site would give him all the answers he needed. Then they suddenly hung up. Stanley wondered what dark secret he was about to discover. The conversation shook Stanley and made him worry. Who's watching him? But her morbid curiosity overcame her fear. He's gone too far to come back now. She uneasily opened her laptop. Open your browser and prepare for the unknown. But why would he be in a place with a missing person? Database website looking for answers. Clicking on a website. Is confronted with hundreds of missing children. Not knowing what would happen, he kept looking. At least the stranger gave him another clue. An anonymous person called. Asked him to search for a specific date, June 1977. Although there are multiple entries for that month and year, but he still found the date he was looking for. But he could not believe what he saw. She felt a lump in her throat as she looked at the familiar picture. No doubt he's 32 years younger than her. But why is he on the missing children's list? Is that why his adoptive parents have avoided discussing his history? He was furious all his life. He believed they would end up on the list of missing children. He knew he had to confront her with the evidence he had. It might ruin their relationship, but she felt she had no choice. Luckily, his foster parents lived nearby. He arrived at her house after a 40-minute drive. They are retired and probably will be. He even used the remote control and spare key they gave him. When Stanley stops in the living room, while watching a BBC Nature program on my laptop, he faced his parents. He presented them with a missing persons report and demanded answers, and the foster mother began to cry. She sobbed as she tried to explain herself. His words were hard to understand. But his adoptive father intervened and revealed everything they had hidden from him. They sat there for hours talking and explaining everything. They told how they were during the holidays. Daniel K. Inouye found him abandoned in a stroller at the airport. Although they tried to find his mother, they failed, since no one came to pick him up. And the problem of orphans is already widespread in Hawaii. They decided to take him home. You have followed all necessary procedures and legally accepted. Their papers are at the local orphanage. The reason we can't find them is because they're not there. Now it all makes sense. Stanley learns that his birth name is Barnes, and yet he still doesn't understand why he was reported missing. Presumably her mother filed a complaint. Somehow no one took her. The adoption and the missing child case. Finally knowing the truth, Stanley forgave his adoptive parents. They raised him, after all. But now we have this information. He can finally fill the void in his heart and go on a journey to find his mother.